And here's what the investigator said what happened when he and the medical examiner rolled the body. The investigator's statements here are corroborated by another Park police officer, investigator who stood over the body when this happened. She reported the same thing. Dr. Lee and Mr. Starr just didn't do their homework and were being too cute. Here's what the investigator said he did, and the medical examiner did. You know, we rolled the body, and I took Polaroids of the body roll. And it's not funny, but the reason I remember it is because I pulled his arm up, rolling him, obviously moving the body. I didn't care what position he was in. One arm was pulled up, and he began sliding down the hill. So Dr. Hout stood at his feet while I rolled him over to keep him from sliding all the way down the darn embankment. I pulled one arm up, so when I rolled him, one arm was up, I forget which arm, and I pulled him, and he slid down a little bit. So I pulled him back up, so he's actually higher up on the hill now. They rolled him, and he went headed down the hill, and they grabbed him and they pulled him back up. So he was dragged twice. The government dragged it. But Lee is saying, trust me, I'm a forensic expert. The pants and the shirt don't show any signs of dragging. The government dragged the guy twice. This is Keystone Cops. I mean, your tax money paid for this, besides it being, a bad, immoral thing. Next one. Okay, this is pretty good too. Dr. Lee, see, they want to show the body died at the site. Now, if you take the official death wound, let's say it happened, bang, in and out, blows out the skull, what are you going to find on the vegetation and the soil downrange of the blowout? You're going to find blood splatter. This is not blood that would drain quietly from the wound behind the head. This is the blowout. They call it spatter or splatter. I won't get too graphic, but that's what they call it. Lee said, well, I found reddish-brown blood-like stains on several leaves of vegetation in the area because I looked at these Polaroid photos and I saw this stuff. Now, 20 people stood over the body that night. Basic forensic science, you get a blowout wound like that, they're looking for spatter or splatter. It's a good basic sign, kind of small atomized blood, bits of brain maybe, that the body was shot where it was found. It's Criminology 101. None of the 19 people said there was any spatter or splatter. 3 of the 19 people affirmatively stated in the record, I looked for it and didn't see it. One of whom was an MD, the doctor, saw the body at the park that night. The other was a lead park police investigator. But Dr. Lee found it 3 years later on the Polaroids, and we all know how good. Think about it. You got a picture of a leaf in a Polaroid 3 or 4 feet from the camera, and he's seeing little specks of blood on the leaf. Get out of town. Next one. Now, in fairness to Dr. Lee, his report's not public. It's 500 pages long, and maybe maybe Starr just left out all the stuff that makes this make any sense. I don't know. Just to give you, for instance, Hout did not recall seeing blood on the decedent's shirt or face, and no blood was recalled on vegetation around the body. And the lead investigator said the same thing. So Dr. Lee is being a little creative again. I forget what the heck he did with the OJ trial with the blood stain or something. I didn't follow that. Next one. Okay, this is a total change of subject. This is wild. This was buried in 24,000 pages of documents, 20,000 of which weren't supposed to have anything to do with Foster. They were in, like 13,000 pages in. It was just in the middle of nowhere, and I just happened to see it. This is weird. I'm going to have to kind of explain it to you. This was written August 3rd of 93, about 2 weeks after the death. It is sent to SAIC, Technical Security Division. That's Supervisory Agent in Charge, Technical Security Division of the U.S. Secret Service. An agent in the TSD, this is not a uniformed officer, this is a real live Secret Service agent. He's in the TSD. He is writing what I call a CYA memo to his boss for the file. Weird stuff happened to me, boss, and I'm writing it down so I don't get in trouble and you don't get in trouble, and I want to cover my rear. I'm going to read you pieces of this. It's fantastic. He goes on to say, he gets a call from an FBI guy who's a relative of his wife's, and they have lunch. And then they have a family birthday party. During the party, Special Agent Blank of the FBI asked me how work was going. He asked what I did for the Secret Service. I informed him that I maintained the alarms, locks, video, and other equipment for the White House and the executive branch of the government. That's what TSD does. PPD is Presidential Protective Division. That's Clint Eastwood guarding the president. TSD does this sort of stuff. Let's go down a little bit. From this conversation, he asked me, this is an FBI guy who is working on the Foster investigation, as we'll see. From this conversation, he asked me if I had ever met Mr. Foster. I informed him that I had run into Foster while working on alarm trouble calls in the West Wing. He, the FBI guy that's my wife's relative that I'm talking to, he then went on to state that he and some other agents, 5, were working on the Foster suicide. This is written right after the death. This gets great here. I told him that I had seen in the news that there was a note in his briefcase. That's a so-called torn note. Most of you have heard about that. People have said it's a forgery. Okay. Then the agent comes back and says the FBI guy then said that they were working on some other leads on some info they had received. I said something to the effect, quote, "Did it have anything to do with what you found in his office?" End quote. The FBI guy then said to me something about a second letter. This is important. They're referring to it as a second letter to distinguish it from the torn note. The second letter officially doesn't exist. There's some independent evidence that I don't have time to go into tonight that indicates that they found a letter in Foster's office early that evening. We don't know what it was, but that letter's vanished. Okay, so that's weirdo thing number 1. And none of this is in any of the government reports. They don't explain it, they just ignore it. Going on. I said it was strange. This is a little tongue-in-cheek, I think. I said it was strange to see such a clean office when I was over doing a lock survey with this other TSD agent. Both the other TSD agent and I had made the comment that Mr. Foster must have planned the suicide well in advance if his office was this clean. What's going on here? We've heard how, well, maybe these people in the White House slipped into his office and got the good papers out. I don't think that's what they did. I think they went in his office, took every damn thing out, and then sorted through it, and then a couple of days later put back what they felt like. Okay, that's what happened. It gets better. Okay. Then, upon leaving Mr. Foster's office, there was a uniformed division officer there. The uniformed division officer informed me and my buddy that Foster's office had been inspected by the FBI. Whoops. That officially didn't happen. And that was the reason for the officer being there and the lock request to seal the office investigation. And this is the grabber here. The officer, that's the Uniform Division Secret Service officer standing guard on Foster's office, what he told the two agents from TSD. The officer then told us that the FBI had removed evidence from Mr. Foster's desk, never inferring what that evidence was. What do you think it was? Okay. None of this is in the reports. Officially, this didn't happen. Anyway, next one. The last few minutes before questions. Oh, okay, this is a little potpourri here. This is just to show you the FBI guys playing around. Slide it up the page. Okay. What was the substance of your call to Dr. Watkins? They're interviewing Lisa Foster. What was the substance of your call to Dr. Watkins subsequent to finding out about your husband's death? Dr. Watkins was a family doctor in Little Rock. Vince Foster, no, let's see. Oh, yeah, this is before Vince died. Vince Foster called the doctor. Vince said he thought he was fighting prescription. That's a little weird. What does it mean to fight a prescription? I say it's legitimate to mean maybe resisting taking a prescription. Next one. We're going to see what the FBI does with the words fighting prescription. This is the typed report. The typed report that comes right from the handwritten notes. And they made a little change. They said, fighting depression. Boy's depressed, right? He's not. We're going to make him depressed on paper. And we're going to hop, skip, and a jump between our own notes and what we type up because we're clever guys and we are on a mission from God or Satan or something. Now, the other point of this is Lisa, the widow. She's telling the FBI this. Lisa also asked Dr. Watkins, this is what her account is, according to the FBI. Could it have been the pill? Dr. Watkins responded to Lisa that the pill, the official line is he took a mild antidepressant the night before his death, could not have been the cause of the suicide. And then Lisa is recounting here. She says, Dr. Watkins further stated that Foster's depression must have been acute. This is what Lisa, according to the FBI, this is what Lisa Foster told the FBI that the family doctor told her about her husband. What? The doctor told me, Lisa said, according to the FBI report, Foster's depression must have been acute. Well, let's check. Let's go to see what the doctor's FBI report says. Next one. Foster's depression must have been acute. Keep that in your head. Oh, sorry. One little interview here. They're talking here. They said Foster complained to Lisa he was suffering from insomnia, but he did not want to take the sleeping pills because he was afraid he would become addicted to him. I'm putting this in because I think this may be the allusion to the prescription he was fighting. But the grabber is the next one. The doctor told Lisa, according to the FBI, Foster's depression must have been acute.